I get fixated on this idea that a business is like a Lego model. You build it once, and once it's built and you're good. And that belief has shifted so much from before, when I realized all the best businesses in the world, Apple, Amazon, it's nonstop. The machine's never built. They'll build something, and then they have to reiterate it. They have to evolve, and then they'll start building something else, and they'll have to come back to that other thing and start working on it again. And so what that's led me to is I have something built at any given time. It just kind of depends on what time it is. And it might be I took a step back and it's not as high functioning as it was a few months prior, or it might be that it's just evolved from what it was a few months prior. So I say that to say, like, these businesses have ebbed and flowed.
Devin, welcome to the Point of Impact. I'm so glad to have you.
Oh man, thank you so much for having me on. I look forward to our conversation today, dude.
Well, I enjoyed our conversation on your podcast. Also, we're rolling a couple of circles, similar circles, and it feels like I've known you a while. Ever since conceiving of this podcast, I wanted to have you on, and I appreciate it because we've had to reschedule a couple times.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, man. I love that we're able to connect that way. You helped me work through some rough patches getting on my podcast, and it's just the way it is. So, of course, man, I look forward to our conversation.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're both, as I understand it, dual service military. You started as a part-time Marine and then went Army. And, some people would consider that a step in the wrong direction.
Oh, yeah. I'm not going to lie. That's a thing that I've heard from a time or two. But yeah, so I actually, I started out similar to you, Aaron. I remember, like you had said, there wasn't a lot of military service in your circle, and same with mine. And I had this thought at one point while I was going to college that in the future, 45, 50-year-old Devin, if I can't say like, yeah, I served my country and I contributed, I'm going to regret it. And so for that literally it was that one thought. I decided to join, and I wanted to be infantry. And the only way to do that was through the Marine Corps Reserve at that time. That was the only way to guarantee infantry. And so I did that, did the initial training, went to my unit, and almost immediately I felt like, man, I want to be somewhere else. Like it's really hard to be a student, but also, be a Marine. And also, I would get excited for drills to, go out in the field, work on movements, like all the fun stuff. Right. And most of my squad, and it wasn't just my squad, not to single them out, but platoon, they'd be like, wow, we got to go to the field this weekend. And you could tell it was really hard for them to pivot from their civilian life to military. And I absolutely did not like that. And so for that reason, over a period of some time, I talked with the recruiter, and the long story short is I was able to get a shot at going to Army Special Forces selection. I did that, made it through, and I was in the Marine Corps 1 month. And then the very next I was in ACUs and in the Army, and boy, it was a shock.
Well, and you went Special Forces and Green Berets.
Right. Yes, sir.
I talked recently to Colonel Scott Mann, and I've talked to a couple other Green Berets on this show, and I tell you what, if there was ever a Special Forces branch or that I would want to have joined, I think the mission behind the Green Berets is just the coolest. Because I started Navy, and then I jumped ship and went Army, but I went EOD, and I absolutely love being an EOD tech. But the difference being the Navy EOD techs are actually within special operations, whereas Army EOD, they're like the Army's fire department. because there's all the explosives everywhere. They put them in the ordnance corps. And you don't get the cool guy, schools and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a mission. I love it. So, tell me, what was your experience as a Green Beret?
Yeah, man, I'm really grateful for my experience. I think it's in my nature, might resonate with a lot of your audience, but we constantly want to grow and move forward. So it's always easy to think and reflect, and I could have done more. I could have had more combat deployments. I could have done this. I could have done that. And so I fought a little bit of that coming out of this job, coming out of the military. But when I truly sit there and I reflect, I am so grateful for the experience. And to your point, our mission set, it's insane how I feel like it's so fitting. I before I joined Special Forces, I actually did the Navy SEAL Challenge. So this was before the Marine Corps. You do a SEAL challenge to get a contract, right? And so I did that challenge, and I remember like just training with those SEALs. These were active duty SEALs training us. I felt like I belonged in a place like that. I liked the water. We'd get punished in the water consistently, and I did enjoy a little bit of it because I like pushing myself. But I didn't understand the mission set. Like I didn't even know the difference between SEALs, Rangers, and I don't even know that I knew what Green Berets were at that time. And so when you fast forward to, hey, I made it through selection, I was truly just looking to be in an environment with, the elite. And if I could, the elite of the elite, right? But it was when I started the Q course that I got a deeper understanding. I knew what Green Berets did before I went to selection, but like a deep understanding of it. And man, for that, I think it's so cool. We're oftentimes referred to in the special operations community specifically, right? Because kind of like you had pointed out, we got different branches, and then we have the special operations community, and you got Green Berets, SEALs, MARSOC Raiders, and then special mission units, right? But we're referred to in that community is the Swiss Army knife of special operations. And that comes from our involvement in so many different types of missions and mission sets. And, I think a lot of people think all special operations are similar in that we're just always doing what's referred to as direct action missions, right? Like hitting compounds, hunting down terrorists, things like that. And we do that. And it varies from theater to theater and time frame and what's going on. But what we're really founded on is called unconventional warfare. And so in the most simple sense, like, what does that mean? We're going into a country that is adversarial, right? It's like a foreign enemy, hostile territory. We're going in there, we're raising up a resistance, a movement, we're creating a movement, we're embedding within that movement, and we're essentially overthrowing that country, all for the reason of freeing the oppressed, right? The idea is that the civilians of that nation are oppressed, right? A lot of times you can think of like communist nations, right? Historically speaking. And we're going in there, raising up that resistance, teaching them all the skills they need to create their own army, and then, fight back. And like in the movies, it's they overcome, they topple the regime, and then they become allies of ours, right? So that's sort of like the theatrics behind it. But we do that, right? Macro scale, micro scale. You look at some of the things modern day we've done in Afghanistan, some of the things that we've done in Syria. There's so much out there that I think a lot of the civilian population probably just isn't aware of. There are things that we head off before it becomes a huge, public thing. And so I'm extremely proud of that. And the cool thing is there are so many different skill sets that you have to learn. in order to operate. You take an average 12-man team, and part of our preparation for a mission is identifying that mission and then training specifically for that mission, right? We might have a direct action mission where we're doing like sniper things, and we're doing like CQB, housework, raiding houses, things like that. And that's all we're going to do that whole mission. And then we might have another one where we're doing more like intelligence heavy things. And we might have one that's like just training, like we're just training up a foreign security force to strengthen their security within their own country because they're an ally of ours. There's so much to it. And that's what I really love about special forces in the Army.
Well, as I understand it, I mean, you guys, I know a lot of people with little understanding think of all special forces as like the door kicking, snake eating guys, and you guys can do that too. Well,
right.
You're these creative, like warfighting diplomats, communicators. You have to be incredibly mentally agile,
Right.
and you're wearing that military's uniform. You're growing your beards. You're eating their food, sleeping in their homes, that kind of thing, and you're becoming part of the you're going native, so to speak, so that you earn that trust. So there's a lot of skill sets there. What of those skill sets have translated into the world you're in now?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that the easy answer is, for me, all of them. But getting specific for you, like you had mentioned, we have the ability, and I'm not trying to paint this picture that every special forces soldier on a team is James Bond, right? Like a lot of times that's what the movies portray. And, some individuals more than others, some individuals get some schools, some, it's just different experiences. You'll have Green Berets
Mm-hmm.
that they only do training and they've never had a combat deployment. And then you'll have some Green Berets that like, that's all they've done is combat deployments, and they don't know how to act around the State Department or within an embassy or things like that. And so
Mm-hmm.
I want to avoid a harsh generalization, but what I can talk about is my experience, right? And what I'll say is I have got to have the combat deployments, the we call them like cool schools, the shooting schools, and I love that stuff. And if I'm being honest, like I like using my brain, but I much prefer to use my brawn. But on the other side, when I talk about brain, I'm talking about schools that teach us how to dress, how to act, how to elevate our status, how to bring value to people, even sales stuff. I didn't know I was learning sales. Like I was going to schools to learn how to do sales, but I didn't understand it was sales, right? So all sorts of things like that. And I think what's been probably the most fun that I've enjoyed implementing and where I'm at now, meaning like in business, has been the things that have allowed me to double down on my like natural abilities. So I am so naturally a thinker. I get caught in the details. I see all the details, very strategic, very analytical. And there was a good portion of my career that I got to just live and thrive in that environment. And I'm so grateful for that. And one of the things it actually led to was a gig that I got to do where I was operating out of an embassy. And I've never worked in the corporate world. And I'm not saying that working in an embassy is the same as the corporate world. There just are some similarities that you probably won't find in other places within the military. And so I will say that that was one gig that I truly enjoyed because it showed me a different side of what it means to be a Green Beret. It showed me a different side of the trust that people within the government, within the Army, had in me, right? Because, ultimately we refer to the government, the army, as this like big, you know, like almost like omniscient entity for the states, right? But it's like, no, it's people, right? And so ultimately there's people that trusted me. And man, I learned a ton. I learned how to conduct effective meetings. I learned how to coordinate meetings between interagencies within the intelligence community. I mean, things that like I look back now and I'm like, man, I was 31 years old. And I was doing things that, quite frankly, they don't trust O6s in the regular army to do. And that's just being frank. But as a E7, within the special forces community, they trusted me to represent an entire special operations for a certain area. And I'm proud of that, and I'm grateful for that. And I'd say a lot of those things, we oftentimes refer to them as like generalizing here, like soft skills. But a lot of those, like my soft skills were really, really sharpened in that environment.
And how long did you serve? And are you are you still active, or did you separate?
Yeah, so I did 13 years in the Army. I actually just got out about 6 months ago. Um, and so, right now I'm full-time entrepreneur and I'm loving every bit of it. I think like most of my peers, most of my friends that I see, it's a transition. I think some struggle more than others. I definitely had struggles getting out, but I'm in a really good place now, and I'm enjoying it. And like you pointed out, I'm grateful for the experience, and I'm just kind of taking life for what it is right now.
That's you touched on a really interesting point there, and I think a lot of people glaze over it. Maybe don't even think about it much after the fact, but the transition, it's a big challenge for a lot of people. Even the decision, right? You said 13 years. You're over the halfway point to the golden 20. What was the decision process there, and what was the transition for you like?
Yeah. Man, I'm sure that there's an easier answer. It's the way God made me, the way I think. I look at certain patterns in my life, and I think one reason I really enjoyed being a Green Beret was because we were constantly being pushed to do different things and challenged. And if you look at my life, about every 3 years, whatever I'm doing, I get bored of, right? So like on a team, they'd be like, learn this skill. I'd just crush it for 3 years. And then I'd be like, oh, what's next? Then they'd give me something else. Might just be the nature of me. But what it boiled down to was I had this real change and shift in beliefs and what I wanted to do, the impact I wanted to make, and the purpose I wanted to continue to pursue. And when I looked at the Army, there was no way I was going to be able to do that, continuing to stay on the path I was on. As you know, Aaron, the Army is just built on systems, processes, and you can see the roadmap from day one to the 20-year mark, right? And so I knew if I was going to stay in, I knew roughly exactly when I'd be promoted to the next rank, and then the next rank after that. And I knew for the most part what jobs I was going to have. I knew the opportunities within special mission units. And when I looked at all of that stuff and I looked at the landscape and I looked at what I had originally joined the military to do, it was just this piece. And I was like, I've hit it. I'm done. And I need to figure out where I can be the most impactful and what that looks like next. And that was just my own personal experience, but that ultimately is why it was a pretty, like when I knew, it was a pretty easy answer. I was like, oh no, like it doesn't matter what changes between now and getting out. Like I'm transitioning, I'm getting out. And that's kind of how it went for me.
There's really no question what you're going to be paid and when, right? Yeah, it's in fact, it's universal across all the branches, whether you're getting the hazardous duty pay or whatever. Every rank is paid exactly what the rank is paid, and you can look at your own progression by timeline, more or less. But there's no question how much you're going to get paid and what the limit of your pay is. So, thinking of it that way, were you looking towards your future, maybe planning before you started to separate, or maybe before you made that leap to transition?
Yeah, I absolutely did. And there's kind of two sides to this because I shifted again, shifting my beliefs, right? I shifted. Whereas before I knew I was going to get out, I remember thinking, I'm a numbers guy, right? I remember thinking and calculating exactly what I could make if I continued to rank up. And we get some special pays like that because we're always deployed. We're always getting extra pay. We get per diem. There's things like that. So most years, and this is counting all benefits, I made over six figures. I honestly don't know that I walked with money in my bank account less than six figures any of the years I was in special forces. Again, because everything adds up. But I remember thinking, you know what? I do this for a full 20, even if I go into federal service or whatever as I transition out. And that's the most. Like that's the most I'll ever make. Like it doesn't matter skills, it doesn't matter what units I serve in. Like there is no opportunity to do better on that path, right? And yeah, we could talk about commissioning, going and being an officer, so on and so forth. But even then, you are capped. And that never really bugged me until I had a shift. And when I had that shift, that was a big part of it. I was like, I don't want anybody to ever cap my income. Like, I don't care if I make, 100,000 a year or 10 million a year. I just don't like the fact that it can be capped. And when I started exposing myself to like those beliefs of other people, and it really started to sink in, it was at that point I was like, well, when I get out, I at least have to cover what I'm making now. And so when I left, I was making a little over $7,000 a month. I wasn't deployed or anything like that. So it was a little dip in my pay. And I was just focused on replacing that. And my one goal was, how can I create enough cash flow, whether it's real estate, my cleaning company, whatever, how can I create enough of that to replace the $7,000 a month? And that's what it all boiled down to. So the moment I realized that, we had that number, and I just started pursuing that and trying to figure out how can I generate this money so that I can transition out.
Which came first, the housekeeping company or real estate? What did you, in fact, how did you get into housekeeping? Because of all of the things you mentioned so far, from the Green Berets, Marines, I would say managing housekeepers may be the most perilous.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. So the short answer to that is my wonderful wife. She is the reason for cleaning, and really why we even pursued that business. So really, the cleaning company came first in terms of like building a company, but they both kind of came at the same time. And here's what I mean by that. I'm sure I know as a part of your story, Aaron, you can relate to this, where you had a mindset shift around how you saw money, like why you should invest in real estate, why it's a good idea, everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I had a very similar moment coming off of a deployment where, I started having these different thoughts like, man, there's got to be a better way. Like, why do I see some people that I look up to investing in real estate? Like, what is it about this? And what real estate did was it created a greater curiosity. And so that curiosity for buying and owning real estate, that grew into, oh, well, what if I could be an entrepreneur? And as I started realizing all these things, hindsight being 2020, I was already on that path. I had a landscape business when I was younger. I was always doing these like little side hustles and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that culmination of events mixed with my wife saying, I would like to do something to make more income. I don't know that I want to continue pursuing my master's. I'm thinking about just like cleaning some houses on the side, like all that stuff kind of came together over a 4 or 5 month period. And that's what led to, she had talked about cleaning houses for some money on the side. And I said, why don't we just build a business around this? And so then we basically put our heads together. I was like, out of the two of us, I have the most business acumen. I'll take care of all that. I'll take care of finance, compliance. I'll figure that out. And you take care of cleaning. I'll help you hire. We'll get some people in here. And we just put our heads together like that. And it's been a process learning like how she can stay in her zone, do everything she's really good at. I can stay in my zone, do everything I'm good at. And then together we can build this company. But that really came first. And then after that, we still maintain our interest in real estate, and we were buying rentals, just not like in volume. But after a while of doing that and really starting to increase cash flow in the cleaning company is when we said, okay, well, we could do more real estate if we now built a business around this. So then my focus became building a business around real estate.
And what flavor of real estate do you invest in? What are you doing in the real estate world?
Yeah. So we primarily focus on single family residential right now. I am getting into multifamily. My goal is to buy bigger, better assets. And I'm sort of pivoting. But we started in single family real estate. So we started with burring, buy, rent, rehab, refinance, repeat. You're familiar with the BRRRR method, of course, but you're buying a piece of property, you're fixing it up, you're getting a tenant in there, you're stabilizing it, getting rents going, and then you're going to refinance, pull some of your money out, and then go buy another one. So that's how we started. And oddly enough, we started during one of the most challenging times, I guess you could argue for BRRRRs, but we were able to do some. And I think that built our confidence to say, well, we know how to find off-market deals. We know how to find good deals. We know how to fix them. Why can't we like flip a property? So then we'd flip a property. And we said, well, if we can find good deals, like, can we wholesale a property? Well, yeah, we could probably wholesale a property. So then we'd wholesale a property. So for the most part, we deal with single family residential real estate, but we do like everything. I've done, all creative finance things, sub to novations, wholesales, flips, like you name it.
Yeah, that's kind of how I got my start. I actually started from bigger pockets and having the ADHD type thing. I'm the blindest guy with shiny object syndrome, but every episode I was like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah,
that sounds awesome. So everything from wholesaling to syndications and storage and all that, I'm like, that sounds good. But we settled into, or at least certainly on the spot in the game board right now, which is Burster. But I always get the R's all mixed up. Value, it's like a bulimic that forgets to purge, or a flipper that forgets to sell.
That could be a challenge. I do too from time to time as well.
Yeah, well, what was the thing? We were looking at wholesaling and flipping, and thought, well, if it's good enough to wholesale, maybe it's good enough to flip. But if it's good enough to flip, why isn't it good enough to keep? We're going to put all this work into it and get that equity. We can hold on to it.
Right.
But we love doing the short-term rental stuff. So you're holding on to some of these. You're doing long-term.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't have any short-term rentals. It's so funny because when we first started talking about real estate, because of a good friend, I had that little seed planted of real estate, and very similar to you, Aaron, where I was like, what's bigger pockets? And he's like, you need to check this out. And then I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Binged a bunch of podcasts. Then I had to tell my wife about all of it. And then we came home and we're watching Chip and Joanna Gaines. And, I was having thoughts about like, what if, I'm like, hold on here, Shell. What if we could just like spend time with each other daily and do something like this and flip houses and we had decided like I think Airbnbs would be fitting. Maybe we should do Airbnbs. And this was all before the cleaning company. My wife really has a heart of service, as do I, but we're really aligned in that way. And so we're like, hospitality, maybe we should do Airbnbs. And that was a thought. It's just one of those thoughts, one of those ideas we didn't pursue. And still to this day, we haven't pursued. But I'm grateful for it because it's a whole, as you know, it's a whole nother monster. And what we do is long-term rentals. We're doing several creative finance ones right now to allow for the numbers to work. It's just the nature of kind of pivoting the model. But yeah, long-term rentals has been our thing. And I like it so far. It's the best strategy that I know of that I really enjoy and appreciate with what I got right now.
Okay, so what's the size of your real estate operation? What kind of volume are you doing? Or what does your portfolio look like?
Yeah. So we're in and out of deals quite a bit. Right now, we're actively holding 12 properties. So those are long-term rentals that we actually have like on the books. And then in addition to that, last year we did a little over 30 other deals. So we'll stay between 30 to 40 deals. We might do a little less than that this next year, just by nature of trying to do less better, if that makes sense. That's kind of my whole mindset going into 2025. Can I do less, but do less better and potentially increase our profit margins? But I suspect we'll do between 20 to 30 deals, maybe like 25-ish this year. And those will be flips and probably some wholesales, I'm sure. And then we'll probably add, anywhere between say 3 to 5 to our portfolio. That's the general idea. I'm ready to pivot. I'm ready to move wherever I'm being called, but that's the general idea going into this year for us.
And all the while operating a housekeeping business.
Yeah. And in all fairness, this stuff didn't happen overnight. And, my wife plays a huge role. So she's moved into the CEO role of that company. I'm more so like an advisor. We have a director of operations. We have office staff. We have a lot of people that make things, go as smooth as possible, right? They're helping grow it right now. And I'm extremely grateful for that. But that is really, truly the only reason I'm able to focus like on real estate and some of these other things that I'm doing. And even with the real estate company, we've downsized our team a little bit this year. But like, out of all like I said, we did a little over 30 deals this year. And I think I got less than half the contracts. Because our team was going out there and getting them done. And I certainly didn't do all of the transaction coordination or all the other things that needed to be done. So that's also a large reason as to like why I can do, quote unquote, do both at the same time.
That's similar to what we did with the fudge company. It was a lot of front end work, doing everything ourselves. And then we got to the point where we kind of we were outgrowing our own ability to do it all. So we had to hire, and in fact, we outsourced almost the entire business, and by hiring commercial, like a contract food manufacturer. It's a
Right.
larger candy company that make great candy. So they do all of our cooking and packaging and shipping and ordering and all that stuff. And have, my house becomes the R&D lab. But
I love it.
it's right. You put that front end work in, and you get it operating smoothly. You get those, the right seats, the right butts in the right seats, and let them, work their expertise. So what do you do in the real estate? You say you get about half the contracts. Are you actively seeking out leads? Are you doing sales calls? What's that look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now, every day, my big role is to uh, build on our relationships. Some people say networking, but for me, what it means is I'm looking for one or two people. I'm looking for investors that are buyers, and I'm trying to get to understand what it is they're looking for so that I can wholesale them a deal. Um, and then other good things have come from that. I've had people say, "Hey, I'm struggling with finance. Do you want to flip this property with me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure. That's great, right?" And then our investors that provide private capital for our deals, right? Because I'm always trying to. That's a big part of our mission is to get a above market return for somebody that's in our sphere that otherwise doesn't have that opportunity, right? They're not getting it in the S&P 500, and they don't really know anywhere else to get that type of return. So I'm sort of prospecting for them, like within my sphere, like, hey, who do I already know that I can build a better relationship with and help them understand what I can do for them. So there's that part of it. And then I'm always prospecting for deals. And this has looked really different as I've grown. So when I first started the company, what it meant was every day I'm working new leads, I'm following up on old leads, and I'm just trying to get on appointments to make offers. And that's all I was doing, just grinding all day long. And then as we started hiring acquisitions people and stuff like that, they started taking care of that stuff. So I started doing more strategic stuff. And so what I mean by that is I was reaching out to like agents, and I was reaching out to people that were buying bigger and better assets, and they were looking to get out of their quote unquote smaller assets that I could potentially take over. And I was always doing the same thing, always prospecting. It just looked different because it was the most appropriate. When agents were seeing all the good things we were doing for their friends, other agents that had clients that they were
Hmm.
trying to sell a property and nobody could really figure out how to make it work as an investment. And then we'd come in and we'd be like, well, what if we can do A, B, C, and D and take this over? And then we'd have a win for the client and a win for the agent, and then they'd tell like another agent about it. And when that would happen, those agents want to talk to me. I'm the leader of the company. They want to talk to me. And so it was just became more appropriate for me to seek out those conversations and those people. And so when I say prospecting, that's what I mean by that is that sort of process versus working like the inbound direct mail leads or inbound website leads or anything like that.
Tell me a little bit about what did your day to day look like, or how was operations? Uh, was it, did you have it in a place where, was it a year and a half ago, when you just had some health issues?
Yeah. Yeah, I did for my cleaning company at that time. And it's funny you bring this up, Aaron, because uh, I'm sure you can relate in your audience as well. But man, there's so many times that we're living in the gap. If you've read the book, The Gap and the Gain, the idea is we are growing, but we're not sort of paying attention to the fact that we're growing, and we're just always looking ahead. So when we
Hmm.
when we're like feeling like we're missing the mark, we just feel like an utter failure, right? And I tell you, I felt like that this entire time I've been building like any business I've ever built, because for some reason I get fixated on this idea that a business is like a Lego model. You build it once, and once it's built and you're good. And that belief has shifted so much from before, when I realized all the best businesses in the world, Apple, Amazon, it's nonstop. The machine's never built. They'll build something, and then they have to reiterate it. They have to evolve, and then they'll start building something else, and they'll have to come back to that other thing and start working on it again. And so what that's led me to is I have something built at any given time. It just kind of depends on what time it is. And it might be, I took a step back and it's not as high functioning as it was a few months prior, or it might be that it's just evolved from what it was a few months prior. So I say that to say, like, these businesses have ebbed and flowed. So yeah, in 2023, man, so crazy. It was such a crazy year when I look back in hindsight. So I have a pregnant wife. We are growing Made in America, our cleaning company. We are doing more and more deals month after month in the real estate company. I'm still in the Army, active duty. This was about a year before I got out. And gosh, I don't know. I'm sure there was other things going on. And I'd been dealing with this hip injury. So I've been dealing with this hip injury for a while. I was seeing an orthopedic surgeon in Vanderbilt, and I'm actually rehabilitating from that when I get necrotizing fasciitis, which, if you're not familiar with it, it is referred to as flesh-eating disease. And it put me up in the hospital. And I think, I can't remember how many days, 8 or 10 days. I'm not sure.
So nothing like plantar fasciitis, right?
Yeah, nothing like, I got that too, but nothing like plantar fasciitis, right? Yeah, that was actually, I'm glad you brought that point up, because that was one of the huge takeaways for me, was like getting to see really like how effective what I had built was. Because for real estate, we had, I think maybe we had one internal employee at that time. Yeah, one, but everybody else was like, they were part of the team, but they were like, contractors, like a general contractor or subs or agents or people at the title company. And so like I had help in that sense. They just weren't like, internal organic W-2 employees. And so we had, I think we had like 2 flips going on at that time and maybe 1 wholesale. So we were able to keep that moving through my wife kind of jumping in. She's got familiarity with real estate. She's actually got off-market contracts before. She's a sales killer. And so she kind of stepped in and fulfilled that. And then our staff in Made in America, they kind of stepped up a little bit to backfill her. Because she was also doubling down on mom duty, because she didn't have me. And, it's kind of like a push and pull, like, well, Devin's stuck at the hospital. Do I go check on him, or do I go get the kids dinner because they're about to get home from school? It was very, very, she was spread so thin. And I'd love to hear her take again, but it might be slightly different, but I was pleasantly surprised at how we were able to keep the wheels on during that time.
After these messages, we'll be right back. I'd like to thank the sponsor of this episode, Extraordinary Delights, EODFudge.com. Extraordinary Delights is a disabled veteran, family-owned small business making handcrafted fudge and other sweet treats for the chocolate-loving patriots just like you. Go to EODFudge.com and check out some of our delicious flavors, like triple threat chocolate with or without walnuts, mint dark chocolate, strawberry and creamy white chocolate, or my personal favorite, American Pick-Me-Up, an all-American version of tiramisu. While you're there, go to the apparel store and check out our awesome t-shirts, polos, and the baddest tactical apron on the market. You see me wear on the TikTok show, Aaron Hale's Cook Without Looking. So right now, go over to eodfudge.com and pick out some fudge, other sweet treats for that patriot in your life with a sweet tooth. That's eodfudge.com. eodfudge.com. And now, back to the show. You know, I'm a work at home dad, so my work day ends at 2:30 when the bus gets here. There's nothing. There's no working after 2:30. It doesn't happen. So I get that. And tell me about this. I mean, it wasn't like a flu. This was a pretty rare bacteria, isn't it?
Yeah, it's extremely rare. Man, I broke down the stats one time on it, just because, again, like I said, I'm analytical. I love numbers. I love getting caught in the details. And when I broke down the stats, what I resolved to, and I don't know why I looked this up, but I looked up in comparison, how likely is a person to lose an arm? And when you do the stats, you're 20 times more likely on any given year to lose an arm than you are to get necrotizing fasciitis. So that's kind of a tell of how rare it is. I think there's like maybe 700 cases a year in the States or something like that. It's really rare. And it's sort of like, not, I guess, kind of mysterious, like in terms of a lot of times, like the most common thing that I've been able to find through studies, like actual true studies, is like the patients like had gone into water, been exposed to dirty water or something like that. But other than that, my infectious disease doctor from Vanderbilt had told me, like, yeah, the standard MO is like, who knows? Like, there's a few things that you usually are in common, like a lot of times dirty water, a lot of times a suppressed immune system, or they have like an autoimmune disease already. And then there's a prick in the body, or there's a scratch, or there's something, doesn't have to be significant, not a huge gash or nothing. And that's really it. And then that becomes a breeding ground for this necrotizing fasciitis, which is just a strand of bacteria, and typically it's a strand of strep. But yeah, it just breeds and grows in a way that is like it's so progressive that it can, it can go up to your heart. It can sort of like kill the fascia and the muscle and the tissue so fast that the best way to get ahead of it is through an amputation. And it just continues to, like, the longer it's in your system, the stronger it gets. And so speed is like extremely important, because you have the best opportunity to head it off in the early stages. Once it gets to a certain point, it's almost like, I don't know if evolve is the right word, but it's almost like it's evolved to a point where it's like your only option is to start cutting things off and cutting it out.
And you actually told your story, the story of this illness recently on your own show, which I do want to get to. But there were some parallels with my bacterial meningitis infection. So you went to bed feeling kind of funny.
Yeah.
And then woke up with an intense pain. The same thing happened to me. I went to bed. It was like middle of the afternoon, but I was feeling weird. I was feeling tired, dizzy, and I laid down and I woke up with the most intense pain of my life. Now I called 911, and they said, what was it? State the nature of the emergency. It was a little embarrassing because I said, I have a bad headache. And without a chortle or a guffaw or anything like that, the operator said, on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad's the pain? And I said, well, I've never felt a pain like this in my life, and I've literally been blown up before. So, anyways, for you, you said it was like that. It was an intense pain.
Yeah, it's so cool. I love that you shared that with me, Aaron, because it's so cool to know uh, that I can relate to you in that way. Especially since, like, when I tell this story, even to this day, I see people kind of chuckle, and it's like, hey, man, I'm just telling the truth. I don't know how to better explain it to you, but yeah, to your point, from what I recall, was there was like some, not some inflammation, but some like dry, patchy skin on my elbow, which is where the surgeries happened and everything like that. So that's where the infection started, right? And it spread from there. But there was like some flaky skin, and the skin felt weird. It was almost like kind of like taut in this specific area, just kind of odd. I go to bed, and the next thing I know, it's I don't know, 3, 4 a.m., something like that. And my arm feels hot and heavy, and I felt like I had just been ran over by a bus. And I thought initially that I had slept on my arm wrong, because I don't know if you've ever like fallen asleep in a weird position and you just like wake up because the pain of that
Mm-hmm.
joint is so bad. And but when you stretch it out, you start to get that relief almost immediately. Well, that wasn't happening. And so I jumped out of bed, and I realized I felt like my whole body, like I had this intense fever, and I was like, I could feel my skin was clammy, and I was like, well, I better put some clothes on and figure out what's going on. And so my wife wakes up, she hears the rustling, and she says, what's going on? And I said, something's going on with my arm. I said, I have a fever in it. Like, I feel like I have a fever in it. And she still, she still makes fun of me to this day about that. But like, that was just how I described it, the natural way to describe it, because that's what it felt like. Like, my elbow felt like it was like a big flaming ball, and there was like a huge fever there. And so fast forward, it's progressing probably like, minute by minute. And so by the time I get dressed and I get downstairs, I relate with you, Aaron. It was the most intense, hands down, right? I have broken so many bones, collarbones, wrists, ankles, had concussions, eaten some pretty bad explosions. Like, man, a lot of stuff. And I will tell you, to this day, it was the most intense pain I ever felt. So much so that, it's funny, you did something super rational, like call 911. I probably should have done that sooner. Where my mind went to is I was bent over, hunched over on our counter, and I was like praying to God that it would just end. I wanted my life to end. And that right there was sort of the wake up call, because I was like, what is going on? If I'd been struggling with depression, or I'd been feeling like this leading up to that, I get it. But I was not. I was not in that sort of mindset. And so to feel a pain so intense that those were the thoughts that were running through my mind was weird, to say the least. And so yeah, that was the point that I was like, all right, we're going to the ER. Like, something's, but you're fighting it the whole time because it's an infection. So it's like, it's not like there's not like a big gash or like blood running out of my arm, or it's not broken, or so it's like you question yourself, or at least that's what I did. That's why I did. I was like, maybe it's COVID. I don't know if I did or didn't ever have COVID. I never confirmed it. At least I know that much. And so I was like, well, maybe it's COVID. And then I thought to myself, like, I don't know. People don't describe COVID as this bad. So like, am I being a wuss? Like, all sorts of funny thoughts.
That's something that when you were telling the story before, that I really, really caught my attention, because how intense the pain was, that you literally couldn't think about anything else. You had to focus all your attention on it just monopolized the pain. You monopolized your attention. And for me, it was the same thing, but it was in my head. It was inside my skull, and it was like on the cellular level. I mean, I woke up. I had I like pounded a fistful of Tylenol like they were M&Ms, and pain was so intense that I puked it right back up. I'd never puked from pain before,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
in the hospital, even I mean, I don't know what they were giving me, like the morphine drip or oxycontin or whatever, but nothing, even medication wasn't helping. So the only thing that helped me during the most intense pain was meditation. I had it was concentrating, and so I did transcendental meditation, which I thankfully, luckily learned early after my injury. But yeah, I definitely connected with the story when you were talking about how intense your pain was, because I could feel it again all over again.
Yeah. It is wild to say the least.
So you had the family support, the business. Thankfully, you had the structures and systems and people in place that it didn't all fall apart while
Yeah.
you recovered. In fact, most of the time, I find out that if I'm doing too much work, I'm the bottleneck.
Yeah.
uh, speaking of that, my there was recently a cold snap through the country, at least the east, and um, it was just like 2 weeks ago, and it was late night, 9, 10 o'clock at night. I looked at my messages, and there were all these text messages from like 5 p.m. that said one of our rentals, the one of the furnace it was cracked. It was a short-term rental, so the guest had said they were checking out, but the place wasn't staying warm. Well, I go, no. So, but it was from our property manager, my mom, to our operations director, my wife, uh, talking. It was like I was just reading this chat thread that said I called the HVAC guy, and he's already been there. And he said the furnace is cracked, and it's also leaking leaking carbon monoxide. We have a guest checking in. This was Friday night, and we have a guest checking in on Monday, and it's leaking levels of carbon monoxide that way over safe levels. And he, just to keep the place from freezing during this cold snap, all the pipes and everything, he's got it going at like 60 degrees, but it's definitely not safe. And it was like, oh no, what do we do? Well, my wife did the next thing was like, well, okay, order the furnace. It'll come in on Monday. They'll be able to install it, and we'll have it ready before the people check in. And I went through all the emotions, like, oh my God, wait, oh cool, it's over. And so that's this is how it's supposed to work, huh? When you got it going the right way, and you got the right people in place. Anyways, I, what kind of did it help your perspective any? Did it teach you anything? The illness, the infection?
Yeah. So many things. So like similar experiences, and I'm sure you can definitely relate to this for sure. When you have something that sudden and it affects your perception of like the fragility of life, you have a whole new perspective, and you look at things different. And so um, it happened over a period of days, but it felt fast. And when I look back in hindsight, I was in surgery, out of surgery, under narcotics, and it was rough. And through that time, I didn't really know, is it progressing? Is it not progressing? Like there was no hope. It wasn't like, yeah, hey, you break an arm, you make it to the hospital, like you're going to get patched up and you're going to leave. Like I didn't know how much tissue am I going to lose? Am I going to lose an arm? Am I going to die? Is this going to have permanent effects? I didn't know like the answers to any of those questions. And I didn't necessarily assume the worst, but I sort of accepted the worst. And it gave me a new perspective, or a new gratitude, I should say, a new gratitude for my current life that I have. And nothing externally changed for the better. My external circumstances had changed for the worse, but just that experience in and of itself just gave me a whole new gratitude. But what it also did was kind of similar to what you'd said. Through your experience that you had mentioned a minute ago, you were able to see like, oh, I don't have to really sweat it. It kind of showed me like, okay, for Made in America specifically, I felt like during that period I was really grinding, and I felt like I was really involved, but like nothing changed during that period. And albeit it's only 8 to 10 days, whatever it was, but like nothing significant had changed. So I had this thought of like, man, am I spinning my wheels? Like, am I spending my time doing things that like are maybe undoing other things or maybe don't need to be done? And what that led to was that was kind of one of the first nudges. I had several others after that, but that was one of the first nudges of like, I need to pull my head up and I need to distance myself a little bit from what I'm doing in this company. And then that ended up turning into, I'm in a role that is not, yes, I can do it, but it is not serving me. It's not serving the company. It's not serving the other employees. And ultimately, I ended up stepping out of that role. And that's when my wife stepped in and started fulfilling that role. And I'll tell you, that was like, she'll even tell you that is, for that business, that was one of the best decisions we've ever made for everybody. And so it gave us that little bit of nudge. Man, I learned a lot about how I had failed to plan for, like I didn't really have any estate planning for the future is what I meant to say, but I didn't really have any estate planning. So other than the businesses and, our net worth at that time, I didn't really have anything to take care of my kids, my wife, for if, God forbid, I wouldn't have made it through that. That was a huge wake up call. And then succession planning for the companies, like even in the most basic sense, like me and my wife had worked in tandem at that point, but like I had all the owner account information. Like she didn't know certain passwords. She didn't know where certain logins were, like none of that. Like, and so that was a huge wake up call too. Cause I was like, oh my gosh. And we didn't spend, excessive time on it after that, but we just put something basic together. And that was another huge one, amongst others, I'm sure.
That's a very practical thing that nobody thinks about or rarely does, a succession plan. I don't know, when you're younger, you think you're going to live forever. And then the way things have been going for me, I think pretty much proven that I am going to live forever, but eventually I'm going to be like a catatonic vegetable. So same thing. But that's a great perspective. And like I said before, I mean, when things, you step away and things don't go completely haywire, it's almost like an ego. It's a dent to the ego. But then again, it's all about perspective, which you've been talking about. The flip side of that is that you did it right. You set it up the right way. So let them do their thing. So that's absolutely commendable. We mentioned the podcast. Tell me about the podcast.
Yeah. So let's see. This podcast, I'll start with, I got to say, right now, the state I'm in, I'm so grateful for what I consider the success that it's been so far. Man, I sat on this idea maybe a year and a half. had an amazing friend that was nudging me to do it. Plenty of other people that knew about the idea that was like, yeah, you should do that. And finally in August, I was like, all right, I'm tired of being nudged. Like, I'm just going to do this, put a plan together, got some people on our team. And we went from, I don't know, we started maybe first part of September, and we launched with 7 to 8 episodes by mid-November. And that was our target. I think the 15th of November was our target date. We moved it a little bit due to, like, I think I don't know, something came up, the holiday or something. We thought it was better. So we pushed it 1 or 2 days, but we hit the mark. And so far, we're just a few months in, but I've been consistent. I said I was going to be consistent. I'm consistently trying to bring more and more value to our listeners and to the guests that I'm having on the show. And man, I'm enjoying it. I'm learning how to interview. I'm just like learning better social skills, like just how to have conversations with people. It's great, man. But the podcast is called Die Hard Entrepreneur Stories. And really the whole idea behind it, I should say, like my thesis is I'm full on embracing entrepreneurship. Like that is right now the thing I see myself doing the rest of my life. And the sort of vessel I see is being able to make as much impact as I want to make. And so I'm like all in on it. And I want to document that journey. One, for myself, because I started doing that with journaling, saw how powerful that was. And so now my thought is, well, if I can do that with digital media, how much more powerful will it be and impactful will it be for my family, my kids, myself, and then, of course, other people as well. So documenting it is a huge part of it. But then the other part of it is just getting to learn and expose my listeners, allow them to learn from other amazing entrepreneurs like yourself, right? You were on it, and get to hear their stories. And, some stories are impactful because they're so inspirational. Some stories are more mindset focused. Some stories are very tactical and practical, and they might give you that little piece that you need for your own business. And so that's really the podcast in a nutshell. And that's right now where a good part of my focus is. We're recording 1 to 2 episodes a week, and I'm really enjoying it right now.
That's fantastic. You actually hit on a couple of different points there about how great podcasts are because they're accessible, right? They're not just great for the listener who can get inspiration or education, but they're also really, really handy tools for marketing, creating a brand, connecting with clients, and both on as a guest and a host. And relatively inexpensive to get into if you want to become a host. I'll tell you what. I'm going to tell you, there's a little trick I use with AI for creating show notes and study guides for my guests.
Okay.
You really think this is kind of funny, but I'll type into Perplexity. I'll type in, tell me everything I should know about so and so of this. And then it'll do like all this information. It'll have the, links for resources or references. And then it'll say, I'll tell it, okay, in 150 words or less, turn this into a bio. But I did that for you. Said, tell me everything I should know. What's that?
I said, oh gosh, I can't wait to hear.
Well, what's funny is I typed it in for you. I said, tell me everything I should know about Devin Ramos, host of the Die Hard Entrepreneur. I don't know why I'm tripping over my tongue. Die Hard Entrepreneur Stories. And you know what it came back? Devin is the host of this podcast telling inspirational and tactical stories. I don't know it verbatim, but it said of entrepreneurs, including a blind, deaf, including a blind, deaf service member or veteran who has a fudge company or something like that. It was like, oh man, ego boost right there. I'm talking,
Boom.
but that was funny.
I love that. Yeah, I actually experimented with that as well. I was using Chat GPT. So I have a good question for you. Do you have a process, or I should say, what is your process for vetting out that information? Because I've had some funny things come back that strike me as odd to the point where I'm like, I better check into that and make sure it's true. And I don't know where those things come from on the internet, but they for one reason or another weren't true about that person. And thank goodness I didn't assume that they were, because it probably would have been embarrassing on my part.
Well, you gotta be for perplexity. It gives you the references there, and you can also do on ChatGPT and others. There's that search function where it actually you click that, and it has to do an internet search for the answers, and then you can also challenge the answers. I know at least on let's say ChatGPT, you can say, "Are you sure about this?" or along those lines, because sometimes it just gives you the answer it thinks you want. So, are you sure about this? Where did you get the information? That kind of thing. Do you have data sources? Um, but because sometimes, especially when you're doing something like this, if you have somebody like John Smith on as a guest, it might conflate a couple, different personnel or people bios or whatever, websites. So you got to be careful about that. It was pretty Perplexity was pretty specific about you and at least one of your guests. So I figured they got you right.
I love it. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's good for sure. I didn't know about that. And it seems extremely logical for AI. Yeah, just ask it. Are you sure? Like, where did you get that? Can you cite this? Love it, man. That's good. That's good. I learned something new.
And I'll tell you what, it's coming along so fast that I feel like I'm barely keeping up, but I'm just using it the way it's useful for me. And I'm not getting that FOMO type of thing where if I don't learn this, I'm going to be left behind. I don't care. I got real estate.
Yeah.
I don't need a job. But
Oh, ain't that the truth?
anyways, this has been a whole lot of fun, but I think it's almost time to start landing this plane, so to speak. But that leads me into the final segment of the show, which is the countdown to impact. It's 3 books, 2 quotes, and 1 person who have all made an impact in your life.
All right. So let's start with 3 books. Right now, what's really hitting me hard again is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. The Bible is a huge one for me. Always a go-to. And let's see. Next to that would be Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
Excellent. Excellent book.
Are you familiar with those books?
I've read all of them.
Love it. Awesome. So you can relate for sure. And let's see. So those 3 books, would you say 2, what's next?
2 quotes or rules of thumb or lessons learned. I know I'm terrible with verbatim quotes.
No, you're That's right where my head's at. But you know what? Thankfully, there is one that comes to mind. Actually, two. No, there are two. So first, I'll say what's really at the top of mind right now is Ephesians in the Bible. There's a verse that says, it sort of reiterates another verse in the Bible, which says the greatest commandment of all is to love your God with all your strength, with all your mind, with all your soul. And the second greatest commandment is to love your neighbor as yourself. Just for where I'm at right now, that's such a good reminder for me consistently. So I love that. And then, man, I am not really good with quotes either, but here's one that I have had since high school. And it came from a coach. And if I saw this coach again, I'm sure he'd just kind of chuckle, because I guarantee you when he said this, he had no clue it was going to impact me the way it did. But I'll tell a little bit of the story real quick. I was in the gym. I was, ego tripping, I'm sure. He was my weights coach in high school. I was in wrestling, so I was super active. And I was sort of ego tripping. I don't know about push press or something that I had maxed out. And I was a little guy, so I could lift a lot of weight, and I was extremely proud of that because I was little. Right. And he said, he heard me and he said, Ramos, if you're still talking about what you did yesterday, you must not have done much today. And I just kind of looked at him. I'm like, yeah, you're right. You're right. And that's just always stuck with me, is sort of like a philosophy on life. If you are just kind of like taking in and just soaking in and just so focused on what you did a week ago, last year, a day ago, you must not have done much today. And so I just always strive to be on the other end of that. So that was huge as well. And then a person, man, there's a lot. I will say right now, I'd hate to miss somebody, so I'll change it up. But a commander that I had the pleasure of working for, his name is Colonel Joseph Wortham. He was the commander of 5th Group, and I got to spend a lot of good time with him. But I look up to his leadership so much. I've had a lot of good leaders. He's one of them. His style of leadership was the closest thing I had ever seen to what I aspire to be. He was very much into John Maxwell, so there's a little bit of that influence. But yet he was also a commander in Delta Force at one point. So he understood the importance of, sometimes leading by example in an environment where, you want to show empathy, but now's not the time for that. And man, I don't know. I love that. I love that about him. So that's who I'd say.
So those are all very good answers. I'll accept each of them. When you were talking about that second quote about what you were thinking about yesterday, the first thing that popped in my mind was Al Bundy, 4 touchdowns in one game.
Oh, dude.
All right, man. So, last question, or second to last question, really, is what kind of impact do you want to make in this world?
Yeah, man. So I'll tell you where I'm at now. I've been having this realization more recently, and I don't think there's like a single thing that I want to do that, I just have my eye on that prize and I'm going to be on that until I see it through, and that's going to be it. And I say that because I've been looking around and I'm just like, man, I see people that are so passionate about this. They're so passionate about that. And I've sort of had these moments of these different things in life. At one point, it was just serving my country. And then it was hunting down bad guys and quite literally oppressing freeing oppressed people. And it's sort of transitioned. And what I've resolved to is that's okay. And I say that to say, so where I'm at right now is my wife and I are super big on our companies being tied to the local community. super big on giving back through those companies and helping other people generate wealth as entrepreneurs and do the same thing. And so right now, what I'm focused on is how can I have a greater impact doing that? And I think what that looks like is me starting to acquire some local companies here and show them how we've built what we've built, which is a very profitable, smaller local business that can tie into the community and bring them a ton of value to the point where people just want to be associated with that business. They want to do things for that business. They want to buy from that business because they love what it's all about. And I want to do that on a larger scale. And that's where my focus is right now.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, at the very least, you can teach the local business owners how to eat snakes and land nav.
That's it for sure.
Anyways, it was great talking to you today. If anybody else wants to learn more, they want to catch a show, want to get in contact, how do they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm on all social media, Devin Ramos, Twitter, Devin J. Ramos, Devin Ramos on Facebook, Devin Ramos on Instagram, and DEVINRAMOS. And you can check my podcast out, Die Hard Entrepreneur Stories, on like Spotify, Apple, all the podcast platforms, YouTube, things like that. You can also go to www.devinramos.com and connect with me there. But yeah, those would be the main ways.
Awesome, brother. Well, we'll get that all on the show notes, and I'll let you know when this is released.
Sounds good.
I will talk to you soon, hopefully.
That sounds good. I look forward to it, Aaron. Thanks so much for having me on, man. I've enjoyed it. This hour is like flown by.
Yeah, I know, it went quick.